Week 3, SEC play. Excited to go to Georgia. That's where I entered the SEC back in the day. And I think about Madeline, strike 3. Her daughter is a sophomore here at Auburn, and she was born at Athens Regional Medical Center. So it'd be good, always good to go back and see some friends that we made there. Kept some relationships. George does an amazing job of giving me a synopsis here on our upcoming opponent, and look forward to seeing Foley Field, the renovations that they've done there. Looks like they've done a lot, just like we've done here at Plainsman Park. And just looking at these numbers here, just out of sight. They have not, I guess at the end of the day, instead of going through 6 or 7 bullet points, they've met no adversity basically this year. Big offense, big emotions, and we'll have our hands cut out, have our work cut out for us to go and try to create any adversity for them, because they haven't met it yet.
Questions?
Butch, what's the plan pitching wise?
Well, we've tried to throw as many strikes as we possibly can. They have to be quality, but there needs to be a specific plan for each pitcher. And I think most home runs are thrown. These guys have hit twice as many as we have, and we've hit a bunch. Like Ike referenced, I still think our offense is coming, and it is exciting to know. But we'll have some more strategic pitch plans. We had a big South Alabama and an off day yesterday, and now we're looking at about less than 48 hours, but to get ready for a plan for Georgia. And of course, some of the people on our staff have been working for a few days. But one thing I think about the opportunity this presents is I look at the next 8 weekends, and these guys are looking in the moment. And probably these 5 of these next 8 weekends, we got teams that are ranked ahead of us and thought more about them than us. And I think a boy, and I think immaturity thinks about, we got to go prove something to the world. I think maturity says we got to go prove something to ourselves. One of my talks about how good Georgia is, and they absolutely are, is Ike being able to stand in the box for an entire weekend and prove to himself. John Armstrong getting an opportunity to pitch and make pitches. This is an opportunity for our team to prove something to ourselves for 3 days, and then reset. We don't have to look at a whole season. We just look at this series. And I don't want them to lose the identity that we've built for months, trying to come up. We got to come up with some exotic plan against a team. I want to see our guys in identity, and I want them to walk out at the end of this series and prove something to themselves. They don't have. I think immaturity tries to prove something to the world. I think maturity is them trying to prove something to themselves as a ball club. I think we have a close club. I think we've worked really hard. We've only played 2 SEC weekends, but our team went 0-6 against those 2 teams last year. So a better start, and this is the only thing that we have going right now. So it really doesn't matter what anybody outside thinks. I think this is a weekend of like that home plate there at Athens. Who can win that plate? There'll be a lot of fanfare, the 2 teams competing, jockeying with emotion, and you can do whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, it's who won the most pitches over that plate. Our offense, can we absolutely take advantage of them having more walks than anybody in the SEC, pulling things out that should be an advantage for us, and trying to work with that to create offense to keep pace. We must do damage offensively. I don't think we can go in there and score 2 runs a game and have success in Athens this weekend. Our pitchers can't go and try to be somebody that they're not, but they really need to be good at what they're good at. Their identity needs to show up, and we need to dominate the routine play, something we didn't do Tuesday. That's what we can control, and we focus on that home plate for an entire weekend and try to win as many pitches as possible there. That's a process. It doesn't guarantee a result. But I would think whichever team does the best job at the end of the day, if you can cut through everything, but who does the best job of winning pitches over home plate for 3 games is probably going to be the victor in this series.
But how important has that been for this team so far, that they focused
on the next pitch, the next at bat, and how they've kept that short-term goal. And I think this probably helped them a lot, especially in some of these games down the stretch.
It's been unique. We haven't had a lot of blowouts. Whether we're up and somebody comes back or whether we're down, we're never out of it. Some of those things have been really positive. I thought the first 2 games at Kentucky were amazing for building a baseball team of hanging in there. So we haven't had that. Everything has been close and tight and meaningful and big moments in most every game that we've played this year. We haven't had where we just have bullied people and there's a lot of free innings there, basically mentally. So does that test us more, or does that mean we're not going to be able to keep up? I don't know. But we played a ton of close ball games that I think have prepared us well, and I'm hoping we can lean on that this weekend.
Butch, how important has it been for your bullpen, for guys like Parker Carlson, John Armstrong, Carson Myers to start, stepping up and showing, what they can do?
Dyke's point about us still working to be the best offense we can be. The pitching staff, I think I've referenced about every week with you guys, we're still trying to find those pieces, and we're walking toward, the middle of the season as far as games go. But I think that's still true. What is rounding out from a positive standpoint is I think we're believing in more and more pieces. The 2 outings, the 2 appearances by Carlson last week were huge. Armstrong's getting multiple appearances in the week. I think Myers got 3 appearances last week. But I feel like some depth's trending. We got a couple of guys that hadn't thrown an inning in a ball game in there the other night. I thought Ben Shore, one of our captain's legacy guys, was amazing. The velocity of the ball come out of his hand, velocity on a fastball, and a slider. And his patience, and to feel like, man, you got another little shot of depth there for an inning, which a lot of these things can come down to 1 inning if you're playing competitive baseball, is all positive. So I do think we're closer. We still have some challenges to getting depth of our starters, and it's been successful. So we still need that to be rounded out all 3 days. We're in a perfect plan A coaching world. You'd love to see 5 or 6 out of your starters like every coach in our league is asking for. We're still working with that, but I'm seeing some growth in these bullpen arms, at least seeing moments to where, like, all right, that's pretty good. Thought Watts did that on Sunday, even in a loss, to where he absolutely come out and threw 3 or 4 innings for us. Looked apart from a standpoint of, like, that's what we thought he was going to be. So can we put that into another investment, another series? Can we bring that, what we're starting to grow and feel good about? Now can you create some consistency with it, and we see it again this week? But the guys did a nice job for us on Tuesday, at least, to where a Carlson, a Myers, some of those guys could get a break in the middle of the week and still have success. And of course, we use John, but we're trying to catch up a couple outings there for him, and I still think he's ready to go. But hopefully this is a fresh bullpen, some pieces that are throwing good, and they can carry it into this weekend.
Another guy who's taken advantage from midweek and really seemed to do well over the weekend is Dre Alvarez.
Specifically, I wouldn't look in too long term there. We made a move because we thought we were seeing the 2 teams that ran the most, that tried to create the most offense with some things, in Vanderbilt and Kentucky. We thought his quick to the plate, great feet to pick, and his stuff was a good matchup. So they worked good for 2 weeks. I know he was the SEC Player of the Week last week. Helped us to find a win on Saturday, so we went 2 for 2 there. He absolutely, now that was a job done. I still think he has a guy where the ball's coming out of his hand is about as good as anybody that we have. And so hopefully that staying in that role, we're kind of convicted of seeing him do that in the series to come, even if the running is not as prevalent as it was with these last 2 teams. But Georgia's stolen some bases. They're running. They like to run early in counts as opposed to waiting for the 2 runners, the count runners, when off speed's more likely. They're pretty aggressive from that standpoint. So from our pitching staff, one of our messages in the plan of coming up with a plan is to be proactive and pick early like they're type 1 runners, and 0-0 count, 1-0, 0-1s a lot of times with frequency that when they run, they want to go early. So we have to be prepared for that. But Andre is not just a guy that's quick to the plate and can hold runners, he's also a guy that can pitch well. So we're gonna keep him in that role for another week.
Good. All right.